Hey, this is Chris Rager, and you're listening to the FSF Popcast.
The show that convinced Emperor Palpatine to make cookies to lure people to the dark side.
Why did he start adding raisins?
Because he's a jerk.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 97. He'll know that when he puts on the red shirt and joins Goku in finding the Dragon Balls, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back and what's left of his wish list.
And now, a word from our show sponsor, Level Up Sabers. Their link can be found in the show notes.
Our guest today is a longtime voice actor that you may know from many anime classic roles such as Cementos from My Hero Academia, King Yemma and Mr. Satan from Dragon Ball Z, Arlong from One Piece, and I would go on, but I would run out of breath. His IMDb list is amazingly long and impressive. You guys need to check it out. We are very excited to welcome Chris Rager to the FSF Popcast. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me, and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, excellent. So we've got a few serious questions, a few silly questions, and all the fun stuff along the way. But we thought what we would do is get started by talking about how you got started into voice acting, because according to IMDb, your first work was in 1988 on Dragon Ball, but we all know that IMDb can be inaccurate. So this is why we bring it up this way. So we would like to know what actually your first gig was and how you got into being a voice actor.
Well, in 1988, I was 15 and living in Japan, and I got to be on Dragon Ball. No, that didn't happen. So I'm not sure about their dates, but I know my dates, and that was 1999. And my first ever first ever voice acting role was Mr. Satan in Dragon Ball Z. So they are right about that, I guess. Previous to that, I was an actor living here in the Dallas area, performing in an improv comedy troupe, which consisted of other well-known Dragon Ball Z voice actors, Mike McFarland, who plays Master Roshi, and my very good friend, best friend, in fact, Josh Martin, who plays none other than Majin Buu. So in real life, me and Majin Buu are best friends. So that's kind of fun. And so yeah, that's kind of where I came from. I came from the world of improv. I'd been to acting school, so I had conventional acting training from film to theater to stage. Theater and stage are the same thing, but you know what I'm saying. Voiceover, I've trained to be an actor. Along the way, we couldn't get agents, so we decided we were going to figure out a way to make an impression on people, and we did that through our comedy show, and ended up kind of growing its popularity and growing our radar on the map. More people took notice, and eventually we started getting some work here and there. Mike came in one day to a comedy show that we were doing, and was like, "Hey man, I just booked this part out in Fort Worth, man. You guys should go audition. They need voices for cartoons." And I kind of perked up, like, cartoon voices? That sounds fun. I want to be a cartoon voice. And I was like, "Mike, they gave you a job?" And I was like, "If they gave Mike a job, they'll give me a job." So
Spoken like a true friend. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I thought Mike was talented, but he wasn't any more talented than me. So I was, like, I can do that too. So I did get an audition. Thank you to Mike. I don't remember. I auditioned probably for a few other characters. I have no idea who those were, but I do remember Hercule, or Mr. Satan. And I remember the picture they had. He was sort of in his the victory pose. He had his V fingers out. He had a championship belt. He had his mouth open. He had the mustache and the hair. And honestly, the only thing my very first snap reaction was Hulk Hogan. And that's kind of where I started.
That's a cool story. And thank you, Mike, for helping him out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Still a good friend today. And cast me in things here and there. And actually, I wanted to add one more credit to that list. I Arlong and Blackbeard, but I'm also now the current Blackbeard teach. So if you're a One Piece fan, you know who Blackbeard is. And
Okay.
I am now his voice actor. The previous voice actor, Cole Brown, he had passed away about 3 years ago or so.
Yeah, my daughter's huge into anime stuff. She's a massive fan of My Hero Academia, so she's really excited
Very
that
cool.
I was talking to somebody from My Hero, and she just started watching One Piece.
Oh, cool. Well, she's so in her 20s when she's done
right
watching One Piece. she will have seen me, hopefully. That's fine.
Yeah, she's a binge watcher. She might get it. She might get there a little sooner.
Man,
And she will have notebook upon notebook
Upon
of
notebook.
notes of the
notes.
show.
Is that like for the show? Like, hey
Yes.
guys, I want
Oh,
to
yeah.
let you know, these are some things y'all can improve on.
Her and
She-
I have a ton of these. We carry notebooks about all these
Uh-huh.
different things, and we make lists and all this kind of stuff. But what
Fantastic.
I do is here, and what she does is way up here as far as list level. So
Well,
Yeah,
isn't that what we want for our children to go beyond, go past?
Oh, yeah.
us, right?
That is
exactly
true.
something better than what I can do.
And
Exactly.
she was walking me through the notebook on, I don't even remember what show we were talking about, and she had this notebook, and it was like her episode by episode breakdown of the show and where she thought character arcs were going versus where they actually went. And I'm like,
Wow.
girl,
some of those
way
walls
beyond.
in like murder shows when you walk in and they got the string lining to everything.
Sure.
That's what her notebooks look like. She's got this
Yeah.
line going down to here, this line
Yeah.
going down to there. Yeah,
Okay.
She's
All
pretty
right.
impressive.
That is impressive. It's not pretty impressive. It's impressive.
She's a cool kid. She is the ultimate anime fan. I would be on the polar opposite of that spectrum. I have watched maybe one episode of anime ever in my life.
Ever? Wow.
Ever. Like, I was at a friend's house and they're like, you should try this show. And that was the last time that ever happened.
What was that show?
One Piece.
Oh.
It was like the first
No,
episode.
I mean, if you're like,
though.
what? Yeah, that's some old kind of bad animation.
It was like the first episode of One Piece. And I'm like, no, I can't get into this.
I
But-
think it would have been cartoons are prettier now. So let's watch those.
our guest
Yeah.
leaves in 5, 4, 3.
Well, no. So for those of us who are not yet anime fans, what would you suggest as a jumping on point to the genre? And of course, plugging your own work is a completely acceptable opinion.
Right on. Well, I've noticed that Dragon Ball Z actually makes a distinction, because not all anime fans are Dragon Ball fans, and not all Dragon Ball fans are anime fans. Like that. So I meet a lot of people like that's the only show I watch. I don't really watch other anime. I watch Dragon Ball. It influenced me this way or that way, or helped me along at this point in my life, or the other, or made me to work out, and now I'm the beast muscular freak you see before you here now. I mean that there are people with some amazing stories about how Dragon Ball has affected their life, and like I said, not necessarily anime fans. So I would say Dragon Ball because it does have, I think, a lot of themes in the show, especially surrounded by family, which I think are fun and interesting, and people can can register with people on many levels, and Goku's a dad, but he's a horrible dad, and who's this other guy come in and kind of takes the dad role, and there's just all these fun, interesting characters along the way that I think most anyone will relate to one or the other, and they may not like the animation style of anime. I've even heard that too. I don't like that style, the way it looks or something too. So.
And I think that is typically what stops me with it, is that I'm not a huge fan of the animation style, because there have been other shows that were that similar drawing style that I could not watch.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm
I
definitely
feel
willing
that
to try
too.
Dragon Ball.
Like I'm a big nerd, and one of the things nerds like, and when it comes to animation, is a show called Ren and Stimpy. I know Billy West, and I hate that show. I can't stand it. I don't want to watch it. It's ugly and grotesque and weird to me, right? And I don't like to watch it,
Stimpy.
And I like the comedy surrounded by the show. I just don't like the way it looks. It's not my thing.
He's on my shirt.
Oh, right.
No, it's
Well, no, Billy
That's
told me one day, he's like, I can't remember the other guy's name when it was two of them. And he was like, he left one day, he said he didn't want to do the show. And they're like, oh, we're gonna have to find another guy. And he's like, well, I can do the other guy's voice. And he's like, he does it. They're like, great, you'll do both. And so then he was Ren and Stimpy. So
oh goodness. See, there was even and Tim's gonna laugh at me. There was the Star Wars
Visions,
anime.
yes.
I could not do that.
Oh, I
I
freaking
could
love
not
those.
do Visions.
So I loved Star Wars. I'm not a huge anime fan. My daughter's been trying to gateway drug me into it with a couple of different shows. Avatar, Last Airbender. She wanted me to watch that one with her. Oh goodness, what was the other? I can't remember the name of the other one right now. But we sat down and we watched Visions together. And there was only I think out of the 9 episodes, I think there was only 2 that I really didn't enjoy. But the first one, that first episode, that I can't remember what that was called. I have to look it up, but that one was
I agree. There were a couple of those I was like, and then there were a couple that I thought were really like, and then honestly, I thought the rest were just kind of okay. There were 2 that were really good, a couple that I just didn't care for, and the rest were like, they're okay.
Yeah, the whatever episode 1 was, I'd have to look that up, but episode 1 of Star Wars Visions.
The Duel?
Yeah, it was all done in black and white except for the red sabers. And
Oh yeah, no, that was cool.
that one was
That
very
was cool.
impressive.
That one was cool.
And so for me, not being a huge anime fan, coming into that's where I watched that and I was like, okay, I could get into this. And from what I understand, there's been a book written about it. There's Visions season 2 is coming, and there's going to be another part to that story in season 2. So I'm looking forward to that.
I even struggle with like the Clone Wars animation and Bad Batch animation, and like that gets to me after a while too.
I do too.
Hold on, I gotta find the boot buttons.
I didn't say I didn't like them. I've got to.
I like the show.
I like them.
I like the stories as well, but the look is not my favorite.
It's one of those that I almost just listen to it instead of watch it. Like I'll look up because I'm like, oh well, this sounds like this seems like it's important. I'm gonna watch this. Yeah, and I mean, like of the anime style things that I've watched, I think Legends of Vox Machina was probably the closest. But that's like, it's sort of anime, but it's also sort of 90s like Batman gargoyles type animation too.
It reminded me in the beginning, and it was not really anything like that show, but in the beginning, it made me had feelings of the. There was an 80s cartoon, Saturday morning cartoon called Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
About this group of kids who got sucked through a roller coaster and then ended up in a fantasy world. And I thought, I loved that show when I was a kid. So.
And I think that was part of what their plan was that they pulled off of the nostalgic aspect of the cartoons. Yeah. Because they were making this cartoon for adults. They were going with this is what the cartoon looked like when you were a kid, which I thought was pretty cool. And they've got I remember watching their sneak peek trailer on YouTube and their behind the scenes stuff and introducing the other voice actors that were joining them for the show.
I just get angry at Travis Willingham because I'm like, man, that's my voice. I want to do that guy. That's in my voice range. And who the hell are you? Who do you think you are?
Grog Strongjaw is something else.
So you mentioned that Dragon Ball was kind of a thing that was close to your heart, kind of thing. And
sure,
we all have something that is close to our heart. But do you have another project or something a little less known that you still hold close to your heart that needs a little more love?
There was a moment where we were doing a show called The Rage of Bahamut, and I was a former knight, disgraced knight turned bodyguard, chasing another bodyguard, and had a lot of great themes of gods and demons and things. And the animation was really cool, and the story was really fun about kind of unraveling the story of these two guys and unlearning their history. And then I thought, oh man, cool. Season 2, maybe it'll pick up and we'll really get people watching this. And then Amazon bought it. And so we didn't get to dub season 2. It's like,
Oh.
So that was one project. So if you ever see season 1, Rage of Bahamut, I really enjoy that. The animation is really good, really cool, and it's a really fun story. And it's myself and Ian Sinclair are the leads in that show, and it's a super fun show. But right now, what I'm working on would be That Time I Was Reincarnated as a Slime. It's an anime. I think they call it an isekai, which is someone dies in real life and they're reborn in a fantasy world. And this time, this guy was reincarnated as a slime, and he begins to gain these powers and knowledge and being able to transform himself and manipulate the world around him. He meets me, Veldora, the storm dragon, who is imprisoned in a spell called Unlimited Imprisonment. That's the name of the spell. And he gets to go along with the slime named Rimuru. He kind of gets to live inside this slime until they figure out how to break the spell. And then at some point, the spell does break, and I come out and I'm a human. And I have an obsession with what he calls the sacred texts, which are really just manga. And so, you know, a lot of fish out of water fun stuff for him. And then a big time fantasy world of all kinds of creatures and stuff, which is super fun. So it's gaining some popularity, and if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's a fun little show.
Okay, excellent. On a side note, I just remembered the other show my daughter told me that I needed to watch, or tried to get me to watch with her. It was called Haiku. It's about all the kids. Haiku is about a volleyball playing team. And I just couldn't get to that one. Anyway, that just popped. That's how my brain works. Sorry,
well,
just
those sports animes. Anime will make an anime just based around the sport, you know. And I'm in a show. I can't remember the name of the show, so bad on me. But it's a badminton show. It's all about badminton. Okay. Badminton's very popular in Japan. And all I ever do is say one word, and it's just this other guy's name. When he starts getting out of line a little bit, I'm just like, yeah, you know, Yusuke. And that's all I ever say. One word, and they pay me for it. It's nice.
It's not a bad gig if you can get it. There you go. All right. So, Chris, we've talked to many voice actors over the course of our show, and a good handful of them have done work in other anime shows.
Sure.
But they've all highlighted the pluses and minuses that they've encountered working in or around anime. Now, in your experience over the years, what has been your biggest challenge that you've had to face while working in anime? But what has been your biggest, we'll say, plus, or the biggest thing that you've gained from it?
The challenge more revolves around being the actor themselves, and letting other directors know that, hey, I'm not just a loud, obnoxious guy all the time. I can actually play calmer, cooler roles, and I would like for to be considered for that. So sort of this juggling act of trying to stay relevant in that world, and with an ever-changing directors and whatnot through those times, sort of letting them know who you are and what you're capable of, and please don't stereotype me as a big loud. I'm a big loud obnoxious guy, but I can also perform as not that. So.
Right. Well, that's the joy of being an actor. You get to do other roles.
Right. Exactly.
You should take acting classes, Tim.
I teach workshops.
Are you saying I'm a big, loud, obnoxious guy?
Yes, I am.
Okay, then. So that's one of the challenges. But what's been one of the biggest takeaways for you? The best things about working in anime?
I guess now that Dragon Ball Z is what it is, and getting to go to conventions, all across the country, even the world, England and other places, English-speaking world, that you meet so many people who were affected by the show. It never gets old to have people tell you, like, you were a part of my childhood. I grew up watching you. This moment happened in my life, and Dragon Ball got me through it. And so that's been the rewarding part of it, is that you go amongst the masses and you find out that they were really affected by this show you were doing and still are. And it's coming back in 2023. At least that's the word. Who knows? We'll see. But and So just to know that you were in a show or other shows that affected people in their lives, you know.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's
from
cool.
from the young and old, you know, like parents telling me, that after school every day he would run home and see Dragon Ball, and that was his thing. And I realized if I wanted to spend time with my son, I'd have to watch Dragon Ball with him. And I became a fan eventually, you know. So I hear stories like
that's
that.
cool.
Even,
That's
you know.
cool.
Or vice versa. I brought my son and I made him watch Dragon Ball Z, and now we're fans together, you know. So it's generational almost. It's been around.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
I remember
That's
Dragon
cool.
Ball Z being on after school, but it was not in my after school lineup for some reason.
right.
I don't know why. I don't remember what I was watching instead, but
Well, look at all the time you have now. You have a child you can introduce to it.
I do
So-
have a child I can introduce to Dragon Ball Z. That'll be
Yeah.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
after school TV was, you know, I grew up in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. It was all about Saturday mornings back then.
Right.
After school was one thing, but Saturday morning was clear out of my way. I get the TV, you know, and watching
Yeah.
your Saturday morning cartoons. And it was on every station, you know, so you had to pick and choose. You had to be really, you know, delegate with your sister or whoever else was there about what y'all were going to watch. And,
Right.
That
Because
might
this
have been
show's on
it.
this channel at this time, that show's on that channel at that
Right.
time. And
you know, we can go back and forth between this one when there's commercial break, you know.
yeah, I remember that.
that might have been part of my trouble too, is that my brothers got home before I did.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is like pre or as VCRs are becoming a thing. So it wasn't like we could record really any of this stuff. or
Right.
Understood how to do that or had purchased a VCR at any moment
Right.
at that time.
Pre DVR moments.
Yeah.
DVRs are nice.
I
Yes.
remember
Streaming's
that.
even better.
I remember that time with
Sure.
having the cable box on top, but it wasn't like the cable boxes you see now. It was one with like the channel numbers on. You had to push the button on top and, you know, switch it for which row was, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, I remembered when discovering
old.
the UHF side of the VHF and then find in between channels, and sometimes, you know, you bust into the cable, you know.
Right. I just like to point out this conversation is making my knees hurt.
You're saying
Right.
things that I don't remember. I
reminding
don't
me
know.
how-
TV.
Reminding me how old I am with the top loading VCRs and, you know, all that kind of fun
Cable
stuff.
box with the channel nut. What?
Yeah. Yeah. There
Yeah.
was channel box. There were cable boxes. They're about yay big, and they had buttons. You'd go up and you'd have to push the buttons on top of it to select your channel. And it was only like a certain number of numbers on the box. And then there was a dial on the side that you'd go down, and that, you know, so this one, it would affected it, made it like channels 1 through 20. But if you took it down, then it was 20 through 40. And then you take it down again, it was 40 through 60 or, you know, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm old. Just go with it.
That's insane. I
Well,
did not
it
know that was a thing.
It was hard times, guys. Hard times. You know,
I mean, we also didn't actually
watching
get
TV was
cable
so
until-
difficult.
I used to have to put my, you know, back in those days when you got to, you know, your Nintendo, you had to like put it on channel 3 to play video games and hit the button on the back of, you know.
Right?
I
You had
mean,
to
I remember having
turn
to switch to
channel
the other
3.
channel for the video games, but weird.
You're welcome. There's your trip down memory lane.
This is when TVs had knobs, man. Knobs.
So growing up, the TV that my sister and I had, we had a TV in our bedroom, which was amazing that we got a TV in our bedroom, but it had the pull knob to turn it on. And my sister and I had this system. Her bed was closer to the TV. We were allowed to watch the first episode of Diagnosis Murder that was on Friday nights because it started at 9 and it got over at 10. We were not supposed to watch the one that started at 10. We were supposed to be asleep. So my sister had a yardstick at the side of her bed and a metal coat hanger to pull the TV knob to turn it on and the yardstick to shove the TV knob to turn it off when she heard Dad coming up the stairs. We thought we got away with it. We totally didn't.
I'm sure you did.
We totally didn't get away with it. Dad knew about it. He just didn't care. But it was
You're in your,
Right.
you were in your bedroom and being quiet. All,
But he was
you
just
know, no
he was
cares
just
were given.
happy. He was just happy y'all were being creative.
yes.
Right.
Yes.
That you had
Yeah.
engineered something that maybe one day y'all would be these great engineers. Who knows? I don't know.
And here I sit.
Beat me to it. All right.
See, if I make the jokes, they don't hurt.
Eh, but they're not as fun.
That's why I do it. I beat people to the jokes so they can't make fun of me. Oh, anyway, Chris, looking through your IMDb, you've got roles listed for the years of 2020, 2021, and 2022, which are years when a lot of people had to build recording booths at home and learn how to manage all of the technology on top of being the talented actors that you guys all are. So did you already have a home set up? Or
I don't.
You don't?
I rent this townhome, so I can't really like build in something in my closet, you know?
True.
So I makeshifted one for sure, but I did not build one. I'm not a home studio guy. I always figured that I would always have a place to go, and I kind of did in some regards. But I'm in the Tiny Tina Wonderlands video game as Mr. Torg. That entire game was recorded in my closet, and I would even have to ask my neighbors, like, "Hey," because Mr. Torg, I don't know if you listen to any Mr. Torg, but he is very loud. It's all about explosions. He literally screams every single line he says. And I would have to ask my neighbors, like, "Hey, aren't y'all hearing that? Because I'm screaming my head off in my closet." Like, no. I'm like, "Hey, man.
No, that's good.
I built a pretty good room then. If
I did my job, yeah.
Right.
Oh, goodness.
So yeah, that was it was a challenge. It wasn't fun. I didn't like it. I was like, look, there's a separation here. There are engineers and there are actors, right? And if you're asking the actor to become an engineer, you know, I've seen plenty of engineers try to be actors, and that didn't always work out so well either. But I figured that, you know, let's keep these same things separate. There will be engineers and there will be actors, and you bring the two together and you got something really good. But you start trying to make one or the other, it's suspect in my opinion.
So did you end up buying like soundproofing panels off of Amazon? And
no, I mean, I just use things in my house. Pillows.
Oh, that's even cooler.
Yeah, I really did. I mean, just pillows and blankets and things, and, you know, prop them properly shoved in the right places of the corners of my closet, and it worked out.
That is some massive MacGyvering. That's
I even had like drape stuff over the door because there was always a little reverberation off the door, so you had to make sure the door, and of course, you know, doors close because they're flush up against the panel of the door, and so that was always closing the door was always a little bit of a trick, or opening it or reopening it because you had like a blanket over the dang thing.
I was looking at, I don't know if you know who Julie Dolan is, but she's a voice actress, and she's done a lot of different stuff over the years. But one of the roles that she's most known for is being Princess Leia in Star Wars Rebels. Okay. And she had shared a post about how she had to do one on the road of an audition. And so what she did is she took one of the hotel chairs, flipped it upside down, crawled in underneath it, and used the pillows to help her lock in the sound all around it. And as she huddled in underneath this chair with her laptop and her little clip-on travel mic on the front of the laptop, so that she could do it.
That is a great story, and believe me, I never really had to fully makeshift. I mean, I've definitely been like in a hotel room recording an audition before, like under some covers and stuff. The chair was a smarter idea than I came up with, but there are definite stories from a lot of different voice actors about auditions in hotel rooms while they're on the road and stuff. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, you just gotta kind of find a way. Gotta try to make that money.
Become Bear Grylls, adapt, improvise, overcome.
Right, exactly.
I was going Jurassic Park with
breaking off chair legs and
exactly.
So earlier you mentioned you're best friends with Boo.
Yes.
And so there are some characters that we get to know so well that we're like, I wish they were real. So which fictional character would you be most excited to meet in real life?
I mean, I'm a really big Darth Vader fan, but I do not want that son of a gun walking through my door.
No, thank you.
I do not want that. I'd love to meet Baby Grogu. If he was real life, that would be a trip. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd be down with that.
Even Yoda himself would be cool. I don't know, man. I feel like I could fill a room of people who I'd like to meet. Right? But, I'm trying to think of good ones that would the Han Solo. Han
yes,
Solo.
Please.
I would love to. Please. You know, I'd love to kick it with Han Solo.
You okay over there, Tim?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we're good.
Tim is a
Chewbacca.
huge Han Solo
These are a
fan.
lot of Star Wars fans, so yeah, so a lot of Chewbacca.
I want to meet Obi-Wan just to have him say hello there one time to me in person. I would giggle till the sun came up. Just, he said hello there. Hi.
That's totally how you reacted during the episode too, isn't it?
No, shut up. Nobody asked you. All right.
Sorry, I know I did. And
Yes, I giggled when he
the
said hello there.
similarities between us, Tim, I figured you probably did too.
Still not the point. All right. So, Chris, I also noticed that the majority of your roles, either by
big
design.
obnoxious guys. No.
Well, no, actually, either by design or default, or either in anime or anime-related video games. But outside of anime, is there a project that you would love to have added to your resume? You know, just something you want to throw out in the universe, see if it happens.
I'm not sure who the voice actor was who played Vader in the animation, the Clone Wars stuff. Like at the very end did he say anything at the very end with the whole Oshaka thing where she?
In Rebels, it is James Earl Jones.
It is James. Okay. Well, I don't ever wish for James Earl Jones to leave this earth.
Mm-mm.
I do not want that to ever happen.
Clearly.
But I think we all know at some point it will happen. And I'd love to take a crack at that Darth Vader. I would, I'd love to be Darth Vader, the voice of Darth Vader. That would be a dream.
You want to give it a go?
I'll say if you practice, you want to give it a go.
I have done no warm-ups at all. But
That's fine.
I need the plans to the rebel base.
Right. And you put that's pretty good. And you put it through the effects. That'll
right. Just add the
with
effects.
no vocal warm-up, nothing. That's
That's pretty good.
So I'm trying to think of one. What did he say in that Rogue One? What did he say?
Don't choke on your aspirations.
Don't choke on your aspirations.
On your aspirations.
Nice. Yeah, because it's with James Earl Jones, it's the pacing and the emphasis that he puts on certain words and
right.
So
if you ever watch this James Earl Jones, he has a very big mouth.
Yes.
Right? And when he talks, you can see him talking.
He enunciates clearly.
So you really got to imagine, really enunciate.
Yeah.
So that's the key. Is you've got to have that sound that he's creating with his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So
very good job.
That's where I go.
That's awesome. So on the note of anime being a job, voice acting being a career option for people, what advice would you give to somebody who's expressed an interest in getting into voice acting for anime specifically?
You're going to need to do other things if you want to make a living, because the anime pays the least. So if you want to be a voice actor and get to work in anime and video games and things like that, you're also going to need to work in commercials and other things of that nature. So fun stuff is the anime, it's the video games, the stuff that pays your mortgage and your car loan and things like that. That's going to be commercials. Those are going to pay 10 times as much as anime does. Don't just pigeonhole yourself into a little anime world, because the hourly is good. If you were to say, hey man, I make this hourly, hey man, that's great, but I don't work 40 hours a week. I don't voice act for 40 hours a week, or my voice would be shot. Right. I wouldn't have a voice at the end of the week, and I wouldn't be able to continue to do that for years at a time. So I teach some workshops, and I always let people know that, look, this is the fun part, the anime, the video games, but you need to be multifaceted in this world of acting, even live action stuff. Some people are like, well, I only want to do voice stuff. Well, you got to maybe consider that, maybe you're a weird looking dude and you'd be great for television and film. How many weird looking dudes do you see in television and film? You'd be surprised. Yeah. You don't need to be some glorious person. You just have to be an interesting looking person. Mm-hmm. If you've got any kind of acting chops, there's a world out there for you.
Look at all the Skarsgård.
They're
interesting.
I love Steve Buscemi, but
exactly.
he's not winning a GQ in it. Not that I'm, not that I am either, but you know what I'm
Right,
trying to
but
say.
he's a really good actor. You know, he's fun. He's interesting to listen to.
Mhm.
Interesting to
But
watch.
he's not going to be People Magazine's sexiest man
right.
alive.
So you know,
There's what I was getting at. There you go.
exactly.
He's not beating Brad Pitt for that, you know.
But
So
it does, you know, it takes all kinds. So don't count yourself out unless you can't act or don't have any acting jobs.
Right.
Then you know, I would say there's plenty of opportunity out there in the world to learn those things, and so go
Cool.
learn them.
all right. Awesome advice. Thank you.
So we have a Facebook group, and it is filled with memes. It's 200,000 plus members, and it is just meme after meme after meme, tons of memes. So which two of your characters that you have played would you like to see come together and to either cause chaos or to save the day?
I think like popular character Mr. Tor I play in Borderlands, he would probably be for the destruction because it's all about explosions for him. He likes the things to blow up, and if it's not blowing up, he just doesn't really have time for it. But I'm trying to think, who would I bring him together with? I don't know, maybe that character Veldora, the Storm Dragon. He likes a little bit of destruction as well. I think those two would find interesting ways to bring things to their demise, or just enjoying sitting back and watching it to be destroyed in some capacity. I'm not sure I play a whole lot of characters who would band together for the betterment of the world. I mean, Mr. Satan is sort of a presence in that world that keeps the masses calm because they look to him for advice, and he's like, "Hey, man, it's just all light shows and tricks here, and everything's cool." But in reality, he's freaking out in the corner, like, "Oh, we're all going to die. These people can fly and shoot laser beams out of their hands," and that's not good. But that I don't know if he has it in him to not make sure his self-interest with the public is more important, you know.
Sure.
So yeah, those two guys for the demise and destruction of the world, I would go with.
Excellent.
All right. Excellent. All right. So Chris, we're at a stage in our interview here where we like to take our guests through a little bit of a quiz.
Oh, boy.
And so this quiz is all about Dragon Ball Z, and it's called The Mark of the Dragon. That's right. All right. So it's 4 questions. All questions are multiple choice. And if you get 3 of the 4 questions correct, we want to send you this here book called Custodians of the Cosmos. It's written about a young man who wanted to join something quite like Starfleet, but not Starfleet for litigious reasons. But after he washed out, he rejoined as a custodian to boldly clean up after those who had boldly just went.
That sounds super fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a good time. However, if you get good things, there must also be bad things. So if you get 2 or less questions correct, we take a picture of you, we make a meme out of you, and we put it into our 204,000 member Facebook group.
Okay.
All right. And we call it our fun sequence.
Fun sequence. Okay, sure.
Thank you for using the word.
I
Makes
knew
me
you
sad
were,
when you don't use the word.
I knew you were waiting, so I made sure I got it in there.
It's just fun to say fun sequence.
It is. That's a good little mashup there.
There you go. All right. So like I said, 4 questions. They're all multiple choice. Take it away, Nick.
Question 1. What's Mr. Satan's real name?
Mark.
That is correct.
Right. Correct. Number 1. All right.
Is
Number
that
2.
why this is called the Mark of the Dragon?
Maybe.
Because Tim's creative like that.
Here, I will tell you, I'll go even further. Not only his name is Mark, but if you say his name in Japanese, it would be what? Anyone?
Dragon.
Maku. Right? That's how you say Mark in Japanese, which is Maaku. And if you flip those letters around, you get Akuma, which means
Dragon?
devil or demon.
Oh, well, damn. That's close.
Oh.
So he would be Demon Mr. Satan, and his daughter Videl, or if you flip those letters around, Devil, and his roommate Majin Buu, Majin also meaning Jin or demon or devil. So
Interesting.
Dragon Ball
Okay.
kind of themed, they themed the names, and that's Mr. Satan's family is themed of demon names.
Did not know that
Interesting.
before today. Interesting. All right.
Look at that. All right. Number 2. What is Mr. Satan's favorite food? A, sushi, B, mac and cheese, or C, steak?
Man, I have no idea. I mean, just knowing Mr. Satan, out of those, I would have to say steak.
That is correct.
Right?
There you go.
Mean, I don't think those others would be his favorite. I mean, he's a meat and potatoes kind of guy.
I didn't really see him as the sushi lover.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, no.
I mean, the mac and cheese would just be funny.
Right.
But-
Or just Mr. Satan saying mac and cheese. He'd be like, hey, give me that mac and cheese. Hey, you give me a little second helping of that mac and cheese.
Nice. Now I kind of want him to have mac and cheese.
Right? Mac and cheese. It's what builds muscle. If he's going to do an ad campaign, I don't know. I mean, Kraft, you tell me.
Yeah, Kraft, if you're listening,
Right.
mac
and
time to
cheese.
make that
Right.
Kraft mac and cheese. There you
Pour
go.
milk in it, and it makes your bones strong. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You're gonna say mac and cheese like that from now on. Now
I am totally.
I think Tim is too.
Oh, good. Well,
My daughter's
then,
a mac
more
and cheese
power.
addict. Every time she makes it, I'll be like,
Yeah.
I'll be yelling it across the room. Put that milk in to make your bones strong.
Add more milk. That mac and cheese doesn't have enough milk.
It's gonna be like 3 weeks from now. You're gonna be walking through the grocery store. You're just gonna see a box of mac and cheese and start laughing.
You're gonna pick it up and hold it in the middle of the grocery store and say mac and cheese.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's what's for dinner.
Always.
Right?
Question 3. Mark has won the World Martial Arts Championships how many times? 4, 11, or 8?
411 seems a little excessive, but until these fighter guys came along, that could be very possible. He does have an entire city named after him. Let's go 11. I'm gonna go all in. He's big time champion here.
It was 8.
Oh well, close.
All right. Well, 2-1 going in for the final question. This either
All right,
gets you a
all right.
book or gets you a meme.
Okay,
goodness.
all right. I really
right.
want that custodian book. It's funny.
When not winning martial arts championships, Mark enjoys what sport? Tennis, golf, or basketball?
I'm truly guessing because I can't remember any moment where that was even discussed. I feel like this is manga knowledge and not the anime knowledge, and perhaps that's the situation. But what was my last option there?
Basketball.
Basketball. Let's say basketball.
He is apparently a golfer.
Oh no way! Really?
Apparently.
I feel shame right now. That's terrible. A
Well,
golfer.
your
I'm
shame
trying to think
will,
back. Was there a moment where I was in a golf cart or anything? I don't know.
your shame will now live forever in a meme.
Well, I'm fine with that too. Hopefully, it'll be the most popular and bestest meme y'all ever had.
We've also had Dan Poffenmeyer as a meme too. So
Yeah.
And
Well, what about Wesley Crusher? Was Will Wheaton a meme? Did he get his question?
no,
right?
he destroyed our quiz.
He made Tim's quiz look like a joke.
He buried it, dug it back up, trampled the bones, put it back in the ground.
You know, I have a fun little Will Wheaton story.
Whoa.
We like Will Wheaton stories.
Nothing bad or anything. It was a good story. I was at a convention. I think it was the GalaxyCon conventions. I don't remember where we were. It might have been North Carolina. Could have been also Louisville, Kentucky. I don't really remember. But I'm wearing a Torg shirt that day from the Borderlands game, Gearbox game,
Right.
Borderlands. And Will Wheaton is there as a guest, and we're in the guest area, you know, grabbing a little bite to eat, having a drink, that kind of thing. And I see Will Wheaton look over at me, and he's looking at my shirt. He begins walking over. I'm like, hey, that's cool. Will Wheaton's walking over towards me. That's cool. He introduces himself. I'm like, cool. I'm Chris Breaker. He asked me about the shirt, and I tell him I'm this character. You know, I'm the voice of this guy, and I play some other characters. And he tells me about how there was some interest for him to be in that game, but ultimately because the game wasn't a union game, They couldn't work it out, and so it didn't work out. And so we started just talking about video games in general. We're having a really great little back and forth, just kind of nerding out and talking about some video games. He was talking about some people he likes to play with, and I'm thinking to myself, is Will Smith going to ask me to come play video games with him? I mean, Will Wheaton kind of asked me to come play video games with him, because that'd be dope. I'd be totally down with that. And then my friend Cynthia Crams, who's also a voice actress, she is the voice of Chi-Chi in Dragon Ball Z, who is Goku's wife.
Okay.
Right? From the other end of the table, like me and Will Wheaton were on one end of the table, and on the other end of the table, Cynthia comes in to sit down, and she's like, "Oh my God, I loved you in Stand By Me." I'm looking at Will, and I could see him shut down. Just like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, thanks. Oh, and Big Bang Theory. God, that just must have been such a pleasure to be on that show. I'm thinking, is that kind of an insult? And I just see Will Wheaton shutting down even more, and just sort of like, hey man, I'm good to talk to you. And he walked on. I'm like Chi-Chi, I looked at Cynthia. I'm like, you totally, well, for lack of a better term, you totally blocked me with Will Wheaton. we were becoming quick friends, and you ruined it.
Me. You game blocked me. How dare you?
You game blocked me. Yes, and I was like, we were having a great nerdy moment together, and you ruined it. And so, anyway, that's my Will Wheaton story.
That is a fantastic Will Wheaton story. Oh my goodness.
I like it. Approved.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for being on our show today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you and about your work?
Well, you can follow me on the Twitters. I'm at Rager Coaster, like roller coaster, but Rager because I'm clever like that.
Ooh.
And you can follow me on Facebook as well. My Facebook page has very much turned into a fan page, so I use it as such. And sometimes I still get to speak to actual friends of mine on Facebook, but typically not. So just Chris Rager or Chris Rager voice actor. I have both of those on Facebook. And I teach, like I said, I teach workshops online about voice acting in anime and video games. I just finished one up, and I'm about to announce another one here in a couple of weeks. And those are, if you are interested in voice acting and not just working with me, but potentially other great voice actors. I bring in people like Tia Ballard, Monica Rial. I've had J. Michael Tatum. I've had Chris Sabat and Sean Schimmel, Goku and Vegeta themselves in the class. But I've had quite a few voice actors over time, and so come if you're interested in taking a class like that. But me and my other professional teammates will take you through a really wonderful workshop about voice acting in those genres. And that's where I make those announcements or talk about those classes. So if you want to have any idea, we'll literally put you through the processes that we go through. You'll actually be in what is a virtual booth online, of course, but actually get to work with the directors and different characters in anime and video games. And it's a lot of fun. We have a good time.
Awesome. We will definitely link all of those in the video description so that our viewers and our listeners can find you.
Please do. It'd be fantastic.
All right, I want to remind everybody that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help us get more amazing guests like Chris Rager here today to have these great conversations with and to learn all about the importance of calcium with your mac and cheese.
That's right. Now, if you don't subscribe, you hate mac and cheese.
So please subscribe. It's going to help us more than you ever know. And go check out Chris on all his socials, give him some follows there, and check out his work, of course, over on Dragon Ball Z and many more topics over there. If you aren't happy with the content of our show today, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. You can call him Mark, you can call him Hercule, or you call him Mr. Satan if you're into the coolness of martial arts. But in between his martial arts championships and those bowls of delicious mac and cheese, he will take the time to lay down the judo chop on anyone that's on his naughty list. Based on today's proceedings, Kathleen's probably in the line of fire, so she doesn't end up here all that often. Just be kind in your reportings.
Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. It's been a lot of fun.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you, Kathleen, Nick, and Tim. We appreciate you, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys, that's going to conclude us for FSF Popcast. Until next time, goodbye.
See ya.
Mac and cheese.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of the FSF Podcast, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please contact us by means of Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FSFPodcast, or go to www.fsfpodcast.com and click on the Contact Me link. Thanks again, and hope you enjoyed the episode.
You like calcium? Mac and cheese.